Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Mother of Podcasts. Today we have a very special guest with us. She is a fellow mom, a senior product manager with American Express, and a LinkedIn influencer. And she's juggling all these roles while managing a 20-month-old daughter. And uh, Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Chandan. Thank you so much for having me. I think, I've been watching you guys since some time and, hearing about all the other moms coming on the show, listening to their stories. It's been very inspiring to say the least. And I look forward to having a great conversation today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for taking out the time today to talk to us. So, before we dive into the conversation about your pregnancy, your postpartum journey, and how you balance everything, I want you to tell our listeners about your pregnancy journey. How was it?
Yeah.
Was it smooth? Was it like rough? And like, how was it?
Yeah, so, I've been one of those few lucky ones. So I did not even get one day of nausea, I would say. So the pregnancy itself, I think, when you say you're pregnant, I think the journey begins much before that, right? It's not the day you conceive. It's actually probably the day you get married or the day you feel that, there is in the long line of future you have to be a mom someday, right? I think that's where your journey of motherhood really starts. So, it was almost 5 to 6 years of my marriage, and, we both were kind of doing our own things, juggling careers and, being very focused on the career stuff. And then there was this all constant clock ticking in the back of my mind. I'm not even talking about the aunties and the rishtedars and the weddings nudging me about when they're going to see their pota potis and so on. I never really, paid heed to that. But there was always a constant something that, what's next? When I used to see children around, I was like, yes, I definitely want to do this, but someday. And I think, yeah, when me and my husband spoke about it, we were, the initial few years, we were like, okay, let's take it slow. Let's focus on us, building a relationship. We had a love marriage and we wanted to give most time to ourselves. And then once when we were like cherished, when we were done and dusted, and they said, now we are ready for the next step. That is when we decided to, conceive and have a family together. And I think that's very important. And that's what I tell my friends as well, that, doesn't matter what society tells you, doesn't matter what your ages are, where you are. It's about, that understanding with your partner and when you want to really be a mom. I think that's how we do it. And to your actual question about my pregnancy, so once, it was a long process. It was definitely when you choose to have a late pregnancy, to so to say, I was in my mid 30s, early 30s, and it's not as smooth. It's not like, I'd soja and, within a few months you're there, right? So it's a battle. It's an emotional and a very, very mentally toxing, battle. Because each month there are disappointments, each month on month, you're looking forward to something, and when it doesn't happen, it gives you that setback. But I think at the end of the day, there is always light in the tunnel, and early intervention, early taking care of yourself, talking to the right specialists is very important. And that's where we did that. We became fitter, we became healthier, both physically and mentally. And it just, happened when it was the right time. So yeah, that has been my journey. The pregnancy was very, very blissful. I, I put on some weight, but I remember thinking about myself, will I ever shed this? And luckily, when my daughter was born, she took away everything. And, it doesn't matter, when all these thoughts, when you have those 9 months, the moment you see your baby's face, everything just vanishes. You're a different person. So, yeah,
Yeah,
it's been amazing.
yeah, so true. So you talked about late pregnancies, like you
Hmm.
conceived your girl when you were in your
Hmm.
mid 30s. Do you
Yeah.
think if someone had told you, if you had known
Hmm.
better, would you have conceived
Hmm.
your daughter a little early, maybe in your late 20s?
I'll say not. It's not that, I'm a very aware person. In fact, I'm a bio student. So it's not like I was not aware. I was very much aware of the challenges I might have to face, but then I was also mentally ready to face them. So I think it was very informed decision. So I would never say I would go back and do it earlier, just because, there are things. But I think I'm very glad that I did it when I did it, because it gave me that emotional, financial, mental, I was at the right time. You have to be in the right place as well, right? Emotionally, mentally, financially, with your family and everything. So, for example, my mother-in-law was working, right? And I knew I cannot do it alone at all. So I timed it the way that my mother-in-law was getting retired that year. And that's when I said, okay, now I can do it because I have a full support system in my hand, So I would have not done it earlier and alone at all. No.
Okay,
So
because
yeah.
I am of a view, like I had my son when I
Hmm.
was 30. Like I turned 30 in
Hmm.
January and he was born in February the same year.
Hmm.
But sometimes I realize that, we should have done it a little earlier so that, I had that
Hmm.
kind of patience that we need to
Yeah.
raise a kid.
I know. Even health wise, right? I wish
Yeah.
I was younger. I could run around my daughter like that. Now I have to think about my knee aches, my back aches, and so on and so forth. So yes, definitely health wise, people who are doing it younger have a much advantage of, uh, doing it better physically. But yeah, pros and cons.
So, like when we connected, you told us about having a C-section and immediately
Yeah.
having a gallbladder removal surgery,
Yeah. Correct.
which like I never heard of until my partner Soumya,
Mm.
she had one because like
Okay.
she went through the same. She had her gallbladder removal surgery two
Hmm.
months after delivering. You
Hmm.
also went through things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
after like doing a bit of research, I got to know it's very
Hmm.
common postpartum
Yeah.
and
Correct.
we are not aware of it. So how was
Correct.
it and
Yeah.
how shocking it was for you, like to
Hmm.
not be with the baby
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
be in the hospital and you had to take care of yourself also. So how was that time for you?
So I think it was one of the toughest times, toughest few days of my life, I would say. And, I have traveled continents, I have switched places, but this was like the toughest thing me and my family had to do. One thing, you rightly said that people are not aware of the consequences of some of the medication that we take during pregnancy. It's not like a side effect, but those hormonal medicines or those supplements also somewhere they may or may not cause a stone in your gallbladder. Uh, I was lucky that it got found out during one of my scans. And but the issue was that obviously you're pregnant, you're like 7, 8 months pregnant, and my gynae was not of the opinion to have a gallbladder surgery during pregnancy.
Yeah.
So you have to live with it, right? I remember rushing to the hospital 2 a.m. one night, and I still couldn't have the surgery because I have my baby with me, right, inside. So I had to endure that pain, and you cannot even take high painkillers because you're pregnant. So some of the toughest nights, I was crying, I was holding my partner's hand, my family was there. But yeah, I just had to go through it. And then once my baby was delivered, I already went through one of a major surgery, right? C-section is one of the toughest, one of the, biggest surgeries one can go through. And the pain had still not even decided that my gallbladder acted up. And I was just praying that it stays for another few weeks, I become better. But jo hona hota, it has to happen. I think it was a month, not even a month. And again I was brought to the emergency room, and this time the surgeon said, please ma'am, get the surgery done now, because this gallbladder is gone out of your gallbladder, and it was there in one of my ducts, which
Okay.
can be fatal. So they had to do an emergency, endoscopy. I was taken to an ambulance in the hospital, and immediately I was hospitalized. And 3 days I was without my baby, who was on my feed. So I remember my mother-in-law bringing, Vera in the mornings, in the evenings to get feeding. Then I used to pump the milk and send it, through bottles to my house. So it was very traumatizing to say the least. But I think with the right support system, with the help of my family, my loved ones, the confidence they gave me, and even my child, I think she was she lived without me. She did not trouble my parents, my in-laws that much, even though she was just a newborn. So I think, yeah, it was just God. God wanted this to happen, and it happened. So I was just, thankful that it went smoothly, and I was cured and back on my feet very soon. So yeah.
Uh, it's been just 10 minutes we've started talking, and I realize
Mm.
you're a very positive person. You have a very positive outlook of everything, and that's really great because
Mm.
having surgery after surgery is not
Yeah.
easy, and
Mm.
then not being with your baby who's on your
Yeah.
feet, it's quite difficult mentally and physically because
Yeah.
the pumping of the milk and staying in the hospital, it's really tough.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you're fine now and you're with your
Yeah.
baby. So, besides the medical condition, the physical thing, did you
Mm.
go through
Mm.
postpartum depression also, or was it like just the
Mm.
postpartum blues?
So I think, when you're actually depressed, you don't know you're depressed, right? So I
Yeah.
still don't know whether I was or not. But I remember crying out for no reason. One morning I'll just wake up and I'll start crying. And or some nights when you're up for more than 4 or 5 hours, your baby is just not sleeping, right? And you get those bouts of helplessness, I would call it, or just a bit of darkness when you say that you don't know what to do, right? You were not prepared for this, or nobody told you this would happen. So then you start, okay, did I make the right decision, or what led to all of that? And all kind of dark thoughts come to your mind. But then I think at the end of the day, one coo, one cuddle, one smile from your baby, and it's not forever, it's not permanent. And this is happening because you have that strength inside you, right? You have to find that strength inside you to keep going for you, for your baby, for your family. So maybe I had some bit of depression, maybe not, but yes, I think what I had was what every mother goes through. And my message to all those mothers is ki please do not give up. Please do not blame anybody. Sometimes, in the darkest hour, we start blaming ourselves, our partners. I remember telling, looking at my husband and he's sleeping karate mare, and I'm like, dude, yaar, iski life kitni chill hai. Why do I have to do all of this? I want
I,
to
s-
be this guy in my
I
next
still
birth.
feel it. I still.
I know, I still feel it. But I think everybody has their own set of duties, right? And everybody has their own. When I see him with my kid, I can't do that. Similarly, he can't do what I do, right?
True.
So everybody has their own role. And
You know,
I think that's where you have to be very flexible and balanced about it. So,
so we spoke to one of the OG moms, and
yeah.
like she's 30 years into the teaching field,
Hmm.
and she's a grandmom now.
Okay.
And she said one thing that stuck with me. She's
Hmm.
like, there are things only women can do, and there are things only a man can do. तो
Exactly.
बच्चा सिर्फ तुम पैदा कर सकते हो, और बच्चे के शुरू के
Hmm.
2-3 साल में सिर्फ उसको माँ चाहिए. तो
Correct.
हम जो चीजें मतलब अपने पार्टनर पे ब्लेम करते हैं
Hmm.
कि why are you not helping or why are you not
Hmm.
doing this, I think that's somewhere unfair to them also, but ठीक है.
Correct. Correct. And I'll give you one very example, good example, Chandan. So क्या होता है कि expectation is कि men should have 50% of the burden. ठीक है, diaper change कर रहे हैं, they are, making them sleep, bottle बना रहे हैं, all of that. But at the same time, society is not ready for such fathers.
Yeah,
I'll tell you
very
why.
true.
My husband cannot give an excuse in the meeting saying that my child is crying, I have to go handle him, right? I can. So let's first fix the society, the culture, the organization, and then say कि 50-50 है. You cannot
हाँ
keep crying कि हाँ mothers have to, men have to be 50-50, mothers have to be 50-50. Society has to be 50-50,
हाँ
right?
मतलब
So,
so that's how like we started this podcast, because
hmm,
of these conversations only, because
correct.
somewhere down the line workplaces are not meant for parents. You
Yep.
must have heard
Yep.
that Indira Nooyi's very favorite, like it's a
Yeah.
viral quote all out there, that
Hmm.
workplaces are not
Correct.
meant for parents.
Yeah.
What they do is like fathers cannot say it. That's really true, because they cannot say कि भैया मेरा बच्चा घर पे बीमार है और मुझे भागना है. काफी
Correct.
सीरियस केस है तो obviously they can say it, But
Hmm.
nobody is going to understand कि you have to be there for your child का छोटा सा event भी है या PTM भी है तो
Hmm.
आप छुट्टी लेके या half day लेके.
बिल्कुल.
That's a very big point and a very like hard hitting point that you have said कि पहले society और workplaces को बदलना पड़ेगा and then we can expect the fathers to change because I
Correct.
see my husband and millennial fathers doing a lot,
Hmm. Yeah.
like doing more things than our fathers did for us.
Yeah, definitely. I would say 100 times more than I see my father doing things which he didn't do for me, but for my
True,
daughter, he will do it. Right?
true. So,
Yeah.
how early, like how soon you went back to the work after your
Yeah.
delivery?
So, generally in India now with the new rule, it's 6 months of straight maternity leave. So I had those 6 months. Plus, because American Express being such a flexible and, I would say employee friendly organization, uh, I always had the leeway of taking a few additional days, taking that leeway of working from home. So I took like around, 2 additional weeks to just settle down, get into that work mode because, on a break for 6 months and then doing constantly something day in and day out, you are like, sort of missing out on what's happening at work.
Yeah,
So what I did was a very slower transition. And the wonderful part was that my leaders here at Amex, they were very supportive. She herself is a woman, mother of two kids. So she was very supportive and she said, Tanya, do 50-50, transition, ease yourself into it. So for initial few days, all I was doing was to just understand what really happened in the past 6 months and just bringing myself up to speed so that I can be there, when I hit the ground on day X, I am there at par with my colleagues. And meanwhile, also figuring out, let's say, daycare or plan for my child if she's feeding. And, 6 months is a good time because your child just starts on solids.
yeah.
So, they are not really dependent on the feed in and out. So even though, with my daughter, I had started the formula as well, just to give myself that peace of mind. And, it's a personal choice.
Yeah.
I know people judge and all, but it's a personal choice. My mother-in-law was very supportive. I was always of the thing that, my child should not be 100% dependent on me for my physical and mental well-being. So that's a decision I took. And she was, maybe 70% on my feed and 30% let's say on formula, and then slowly transitioned into work. Just bang on after 6.5 months, I was right back on track. Good part is I didn't have to go to office all days of the week. So, I started with one day and then I made it into 2 days a week. So, that's how I, got myself back. So, yeah.
So, did you have mom guilt?
I still have mom guilt. Even while doing this, I have mom guilt. My child is with this grandma. Yes. I think it has become an organ, not even a part. It has become an organ of me, which it shouldn't. Every mom I talk to, old, new, grandmoms, great grandmoms, they say you should not have it. But I think we are just at the end of the day moms, right? We cannot not have mom guilt. So I know I shouldn't have it, but every time I leave my child crying and I see her face, even though she says, Bye, Mama, I know she's going to miss me. I am going to miss her more than, she'll forget about me in the next 5 months, but I'll miss her more. So, yeah, it's always there.
So, I could make out that you have a very great support system
Hmm.
at your
Hmm.
house. So,
Hmm.
do you have a help or like you have?
Yeah. So initially, I did have nanny sorts who would help us out, in the let's say top work kind of thing, so that me and my mother-in-law we could manage, my daughter. And the best part was, that like I don't really live in a joint family. They just live in the same society. So
Okay,
it's we have our own places, in terms of privacy. But whenever we need each other, we have the support system as well.
okay,
So for my daughter, it becomes more like a play area that, okay, now is Dadi house time. So then she knows that, these are the hours she would play with her Dadu Dadi, with the nanny. And then I realized that, as and when the work became more for me, I also got promoted this year and, more responsibilities were thrown at me during work. And then I do have these extracurriculars I keep myself busy with. So I thought that 24-hour help actually makes more sense. It's not very too much incremental financially, I would say, in terms of costs, but the support is too much. But I think figuring out the right person again becomes very challenging because the health system is not that great in North India. So you just keep finding that right fit. The moment the child becomes very close to one nanny, it's time for her to
Yeah.
either go or there is some issues. So that keeps happening. But I have found having a 24-hour support much more helpful, even though they don't wake up at night. So, some people feel कि 24 hour रख लिए तो वो रात को भी आपके kid को देखेगी. So I do not do that. I take care of my kid. My child wakes up 3 to 4 times, even though she's, about to be two. I know it's not very common, but yeah, she wakes up. My husband, we take care of her. We have not slept throughout the night, even a single night since she was born. But yeah, that's it. That's the way it is. So, yep.
My son also used to wake up like till he was two. अभी
Oh.
भी रात में एक दो बार तो उठता ही है. And
Whenever I talk to somebody, it's like, अच्छा हमारा बच्चा तो 1 साल में सो जाता था. And then I'm like,
नहीं,
okay.
मेरा बच्चा नहीं, मेरा बच्चा अभी भी रात को उठता है एक
Thank
बार
God
या दो बार.
somebody is there.
Yeah, मतलब because I have heard people saying or even my mother saying कि तुम लोग
Hmm.
तो रात भर
Hmm.
सोते रहते थे. अब मैंने कहा नहीं सो रहा
Yeah.
तो मैं क्या करूं. नहीं
क्या
सो.
करूँ, एवरी चाइल्ड इज डिफरेंट एंड आई थिंक लोग यही रियलाइज नहीं करते कि हर बच्चे की जर्नी, डेवलपमेंट स्टेजेस, एवरीथिंग इज सो डिफरेंट फ्रॉम द नेक्स्ट पर्सन. कंपैरिजन करने का कोई पॉइंट नहीं है. एंड seeing the other child and saying कि हाय मेरा बच्चा तो ये कर नहीं रहा है, आई थिंक इज द फुलिश मोस्ट फुलिश थिंग यू कैन डू.
No,
सो
मतलब
या.
I became very straightforward after having my child,
हम्म.
and I made certain things clear in my mind कि कंपैरिजन तो होने से रहा. और
करेक्ट.
कोई बोले कि तुम्हारा बच्चा बहुत कमजोर है या तुम
हम्म.
मतलब यू नॉट टेकिंग केयर ऑफ द बेबी और वट एवर.
हम्म. हम्म.
I
करेक्ट.
was very like straightforward. I used to give टक
हम्म.
टक जवाब कि भैया
या, वेरी नाइस.
he's being taken care of and
या,
डॉक्टर के हिसाब से बिल्कुल ठीक है. So
सही
I
चल
am
रहा
not
है.
I'm not worried.
या. या.
And were
यू
you
नो.
the kind were you that kind who used to judge people who used to have nannies? Because I was that one female before
Yes,
having
yes. I
before having my
remember.
baby. I used to judge moms at
Yeah,
gatherings, at parties who
yeah,
were
yeah,
with their nannies and
definitely.
babies. I was like, खुद का बच्चा नहीं संभाल सकते.
In fact, I'll tell you one incident. I think I was flying this summer. This was even before my marriage. I was in college, and a woman was flying with her nanny and kid. And I was like, इनको देख लो, मतलब, nanny को जहाज में भी लेके जाएंगे. And very recently, my child, when she was 7 months, I took the nanny in the airplane. We went to Udaipur for a trip. And the entire way, I was like, what goes around comes around. This is me today. So, yeah.
Okay, so we are having this conversation with everybody we have spoken so far.
Mhm.
Do you think that, you know, being raised as a millennial, as a career woman, as like we were raised to be financially independent, we were taught to
Yeah.
be that. And somewhere
Mhm.
down the line, when we became mothers, we became so hard on ourselves that, you know,
Yeah.
it affects us mentally, physically, and emotionally as well. And we sometimes, some of the mothers I have spoken to, they fail to connect with the child, you know, even though
Yeah.
it's their decision, but they're not ready to accept it. So,
Hmm.
what are your thoughts about it? How do you feel about it?
I think, see, there are two perspectives to it. See, one, I always feel that, we brought it upon ourselves. I mean, I laugh about it and I say that who told us to be all this, Wonder Woman doing career and marriage and then household and kids. मतलब पहले सही था ना यार, चल रहा था ना. Men used to go out, we used to be at home. Why? But jokes apart, I think, yes, it is, it's like juggling multiple balls in your hand, and the fear of living in that one would drop, right? That is how you're living. And uh, as millennials, I would say that, we are brought up like that, right? There was never a question of we not studying, we not working, we not being financially independent, like you said, or being, at least having that choice, right, of to work or not. I am not judging people who are housewives, or I am, in fact, I always say that you should have that choice tomorrow I should have a choice of leaving my job and staying with my kid if I want to, right? That is the financial independence everybody should look for. And not just going to work doing a 9 to 5 and say, I'm one manager or so and so. That is not financial independence. Having that choice is financial independence. So that is what we should all strive for. And again, we brought it upon ourselves. So yeah, we have to live with
Like
it.
society plays a role in it, and you think if one day a man of the house comes up and says, "Okay, I'll sit back home and be with my child. You go out and work."
Yeah.
Do you think that's? Do you ever think that time is going to come?
Not in India anytime soon. But I do see that culture coming up in Western countries. I have male colleagues who had resigned and said that, I'm going to give a few years to my family. My wife is going to be the primary and she is going to take care of the finances and everything. And I'm going to sit back and because see what happens is we have to remove that lens of gender going ahead, both males and females. You think you will marry your daughter to a guy who says, I want to sit back home and raise kids.
Yeah,
The day you would say yes to that answer, that is the day we have achieved that, right?
yeah.
So again, all comes back to how you think about society in the future. How ready are you to give off your financially independent daughters to males who are sitting at home? It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I think I really think that we raise a generation who are not hurried and
Yeah,
they know what they want in life, but not
exactly.
at the cost of their mental peace and physical health.
Yeah, yeah. I look at Gen Zs. My own brother, he's 10 years younger. I see a generational gap, and I look at my juniors in office. The way they talk about it. Their aspirations are never to have a big villa, cruise, or a jet. Right? It's all financial independence, traveling to places, having that mental peace. They are not even thinking of marriage, wedding, kids. They are talking about in terms of finding love, finding peace, finding happiness, staying in the hills for a while. I mean, I wish we had that kind of aspirations, when
But
society
not
allowed us
having
to
kids
dream
is
like
going
that.
to end the race also.
Yeah, that is true. I think, but we are enough that even if half of us decide not to have kids, the other half will take care of it. So I'm not worried.
Okay. So let's talk about a little bit about your LinkedIn journey. Like
Yeah,
you manage office, being a senior product manager, then you have a LinkedIn, like you are a LinkedIn influencer, and creating content is not easy. I have
yeah.
understood it in like 3 4 months only. We started this and we were like, kar lenge. But now
Hmm.
we've
Yeah,
understood that it takes a lot and lot of effort.
a
It's
lot
like
of
a
time. Yeah,
full-time job.
exactly. Yep, yep.
How are you doing it?
Mm, So I would say that, I am not very hard on myself, first of all. I started it during my pregnancy. I had a lot of time. I had that, a little bit of fear also that I may not get wiped out of that corporate scene. And out of that fear, I started it. But when it ticked off, I realized that I may be not bad at it and maybe I can give it a little more thought. When Vera was born, I made more efforts to, keep it alive, to keep the content going on. I remember even in that gallbladder surgery from the hospital bed, I was writing a post just to, keep myself sane. That I have this outlet, I have this piece of me which nobody else is controlling. This is all me. It was just, I think, to fulfill my, um, I don't even have a name for it, but, my needs, my emotional, mental, aspirational needs. And now, when my child is slowly becoming a toddler, I feel it is so much more difficult to take out time. And I think that's where, these very amazing internet people have given us ChatGPT. They have given us tools. They have given us this amazing Canva and all of these to help us create better content, easier, faster content. So yeah, I do, keep myself up to date with all of these. I do try to learn from what other influencers are doing. I keep my network going strong. Even though I'm not able to post on a very regular basis, I see to it that my followers have something or the other. I take out support from my own network to give them good content. And then I keep myself, linked to my the groups that I'm part of, the product management uh, cohorts that I'm part of, and other organizations that I'm linked to as a mentor. So, I take out time, let's say, 1 hour or 2 hours within the week is my slot of doing these things. And that is how I'm, just trying to channel that, okay, this is my time. This time I'm not giving to anybody else but myself. So, having a very clear separation in my mind is what has been working so far. I don't know what will happen in the future, but yeah.
So, like, what do you write about?
So
What
I
can we
write about
expect
product
from your?
management.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah. So I'm like you said, I'm a senior product manager. I started my professional journey as a product manager, and product management in India is not a very, I would say, people are not very aware of it.
yeah.
It's been a recent phenomena for the past 5 to 10 years only. This role has actually come to India, and I was lucky enough to get into it to be one of those original people who have seen it, grow. And when I see a lot, how it started was because I started getting a lot of people reaching out to me on LinkedIn and asking me about the role. And then I realized there is a demand for them, for good mentors, for people who can actually, show some career path to these aspiring product managers. And that's how I started my journey. So I teach them, I mentor them, I take one-on-one sessions with them. So for my LinkedIn, I try to reach out to as many aspiring product managers as I can. I take one-on-one sessions with them. I mentor them. I'm also part of a lot of edutech companies who, take on, who come to me as to give them mentorship to their cohorts, to their people who have enrolled with them to learn about product management. So it's all, in the universe of product itself. So everything and anything related to product management careers is what, I take care of.
So, guys, if anyone of you listening out there needs Tanya's help, you can just connect with her on LinkedIn. She's quite popular on LinkedIn. And Tanya, so before we end this conversation and say goodbye to you, I want to know, like, if one thing, if like there was
Hmm.
one thing you wished someone had told you because before becoming a mother, what would it have been?
I think the reality of it not being that easy, right? Nobody told me it will be so difficult, Chandan. I think no amount of words or experience can tell you how your motherhood journey would be like, right? First of all, everyone's different, right? I met my best friend, her child does not even cry. My child, even if you say her name, she'll start screaming. So it's so different from everybody, and I think I really wished somebody told me the actual reality of how difficult it is going to be for me, mentally, physically, emotionally. you know I am a new person every day. I learn patience, I learn things about myself that I didn't know was possible, probably before motherhood. There are pros and cons. It helps me at days, but it also takes out a lot from me. So yeah, I hope the children tomorrow they are thankful of all the sacrifices. So like I am so much more appreciative of my parents after I became a mom. I
Same.
mean, really, I have started to look at my mom with the whole lot different lens. And I have also, I think, swore that I will never judge another mother ever, because everybody is doing their best they can. No mother will not do their 100, 200% for their children. So that is one thing that I learned. Yeah.
Yeah, I also felt the same after having my child. I missed my mother like anything. I mean, she was with me, but even though if she was going away for 2, 3 days, I was
Yeah.
like, no, you have to be with me. And like, what are your self-care tips? How do you,
Hmm.
maintain that mental peace and have some alone time? What do you do?
Yeah, I think in my alone time, when I'm not doing any of these things that we talked about, I just take a stroll. We have these nice gardens in our society. I take a stroll. I actually take some time off. I don't think about anything. I want a blank slate in my mind. It could be meditation. It could be your own form of meditation, right? just not thinking, just looking into blankness. And it could be chanting or something religious for some people, I think. But for me, it's, it also entails a lot of self-care. So, whenever I get time, probably I mix something, put a face pack, just relax for some time. Maybe I'll just oil, give myself a nice head massage myself, just me, and or nothing. So I will just ask everybody to get out of the house for some time, have the house to myself, watch whatever I like, eat whatever I like, do whatever I like in the house for at least 1 hour, because I can't drive. Otherwise, I would have taken the car out and done that. So, one of the weekends, I'll just tell my husband, please, isko kahin leke jao, you go, guys, go and play out. And that is my me time, alone time, when I'm just doing whatever I want without anybody telling me what to do or asking me ki ye kar. So, yeah.
Okay, so before we say bye bye to each other, there are like three things, like you said, किसी ने मुझे ये बताया नहीं था. Three things that you want to tell women who are trying to conceive, who are already pregnant
Hmm.
or just had a baby.
Yeah.
Three things
Yeah.
जो किसी ने उनको नहीं बताई थी पर तान्या बताएगी.
Okay. One, always and always prioritize yourself, because only if you prioritize yourself, your baby will be happier, you will be happier. So, number one is you, then your baby. That is one thing I always want to tell all the would-be moms, already moms, okay, out there. Second is that don't try to be the best. Don't try to be a super mom. Make mistakes and be okay with it. Don't be hard on yourself. Like I said, every mom is 100% doing their best. Whatever suits you may not suit somebody else. Whatever somebody is doing, you may not be able to achieve. वो रील्स देख के इंस्टाग्राम पे कि अरे ये तो ऐसे भी करते हैं, बच्चों के लिए ये भी करते हैं, ये भी खाना बनते हैं, वो कटोरी में सजा सजा के 7 course meal. If you can't do that, you can't do that. Whatever you are doing is again 100% best for your child.
True.
So please don't, compare. Don't get into that Instagram and Facebook fascinations. You are already the best for your child. Just be happy. And I think third would be, like I said, do what you like. Take out time, 1 hour in the week, for just doing you. Be you. That is very important. That keeps you sane. That keeps you you. So I think these are the three things I would tell everybody out there. So yeah.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you taking out time for us.
Yeah,
And
thank you for
I'm,
having me.
I'm taking this positivity from you because it's much needed. You have a
Yeah,
really positive outlook of everything around you, and that's
yeah.
that's like rare in the age of social media and reels
I
where
know it's rare. Yeah.
so thank you
Thank you
for
so
keeping
much
it
for
alive.
having me.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and keep doing the good work that you guys are doing. And I think it's really helping a lot of new moms like myself. So
Thank you
very,
so
very
much.
thanks to you guys for, bringing everybody, all this network of mothers together. So yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
This is the mother of podcasts. Subscribe our YouTube channel for updates on new episodes every Thursday. This podcast is available on Spotify and Apple Podcast. Connect with us on Instagram, Threads, and Facebook.